Horivka in miniature. Russians lose 6 armored vehicles in assault on the Dobropillia direction. Russians drowned 6 armored vehicles while attempting to cross Kazennyi Torets River during a mechanized assault on the Dobropillia direction. The 33rd Mechanized Brigade published a video showing the repelled assault. Once again, the Russians tried to push through the brigade's defensive line near Volodymyrivka. 5 armored vehicles rolled out from the direction of Novotorosk. However, this time the weather conditions, which the invaders clearly relied on, did not play in their favor. The brigade reported some of the armored vehicles became stuck in the river while attempting to cross and eventually sank. During this time, they were targeted by artillery, FPV drones, bomber drones, and HIMARS rocket systems. In addition, some of the vehicles were disabled by drone strikes even before reaching the crossing point. We have the following results of our effective defense. 3 vehicles sank, and 2 were destroyed jointly with neighboring units, the brigade reported. According to serviceman Craig Forsher on the X network, this attack was part of a larger mechanized assault that was also repelled by neighboring brigades. According to his information, the 93rd and 33rd Mechanized Brigades and the 95th Air Assault Brigade, together with adjacent units, destroyed at least 16 armored vehicles. It's hard to count how many of them, the armored vehicles, were used because of the poor weather conditions, which is fog, but we're sure it was dozens. Meanwhile, OSINT researcher Mark Lissette, analyzing the video released by the 33rd Brigade, discovered that at least 6 Russian armored vehicles got stuck in the Kazennyi Torets River. In May 2022, Russian units suffered heavy losses while attempting to cross the Seversky Donets River near the village of Horivka. At that time, the Russians tried to cross the Seversky Donets River for 8 days and temporarily established 3 bridgeheads, but Ukrainian forces gradually drove them out of each one. Overall, during the fighting and the chaotic retreat, Russian forces lost more than 80 armored vehicles, many of which were sunk in the river during both their attempts to cross for the assault and later during their withdrawal. Recently, a footage-failed attack exposed the true state of Russian units, with elite VDV branding not being able to mask inadequate planning and logistics, as Russian paratroopers saw what awaited them with such a plan. Many decided just to surrender to avoid a certain death, only to immediately become priority targets for their own drone units that received the command to chase and eliminate all deserters. Russian VDV forces were redeployed to the Zaporizhia front to pin Ukrainian defenses in Zaporizhia as part of a combined operation. The hope was that this would split Ukrainian attention in the south, while other operational grouping would try to outflank Ukraine's defensive lines from the east and force penetration into the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Russian push towards Orkiv consisted of a multi-wave assault against Molotokmachka, aiming to punch through and consolidate the area. Geolocated footage shows Russian forces advancing with 26 tanks and infantry fighting vehicles over the course of the day. But despite their efforts, 22 of them were destroyed by the Ukrainians by nightfall. Most of the soldiers were also eliminated, with survivors left abandoned by their own command. as a target for the Ukrainian drones clearing the fields. Many Russians join the VDV forces believing they would be treated as elite warriors, trained, equipped, and celebrated. The reality is far more different from what was portrayed. Paratroopers were thrown into the meat grinder in sequential waves, watching comrades engulfed by explosions as their own turn soon approached. Rather than a coordinated, overwhelming thrust, units were fed into attritional assaults by only several vehicles at a time, with little hope of success and zero plans to evacuate potential survivors. The psychological effect was catastrophic for the VDV recruits, as elite status evaporated into a sense of being expendable. Faced with annihilation, a growing number of Russian soldiers chose surrender over certain death. A video from this direction shows a Russian paratrooper walking out of ruined positions to lay down arms, guided toward Ukrainian rear areas by two Ukrainian soldiers who accepted his surrender and took him as a prisoner of war. This possibility gave the Russian soldier a rational survival choice, if only he had not been spotted by his own comrades. Soon after, two Russian FPV drones attacked the group, shockingly ignoring the Ukrainians but focusing on the Russian soldier who had surrendered, with the only goal to punish their own for choosing to live. This ruthless Russian field response is intended to deter deserters by a brutal order. When Russian reconnaissance identifies their own troops moving to surrender, Russian FPV drones and artillery units are ready to act and strike the surrendering soldiers. Footage from Stepnohursk shows another VDV soldier holding his arms up in surrender, but then quickly turning around and pleading with the approaching Russian kamikaze drones trying to kill him, to no avail. The two videos, filmed and published right after the major Russian assault, show that these are not isolated battlefield incidents, but part of a growing set of evidence that such punitive measures have been adopted by the Russian officers to prevent mass capitulation.